Hey everyone! Today I am going to be doing a January reading wrap-up. I don't know when the last time I did a reading wrap-up was. It's been a really long time. But I figured in 2021 I would attempt to start doing wrap-ups again. That way, if you're interested in any new releases or underrated books that are not really being talked about or just random genres I'm reading that I'm not doing dedicated videos to, you would have somewhere to go. I also have a book blog where I post all of these wrap-ups, so same name, link down below, all that stuff. So yeah, let's dive in. The first book that I read in the month of January was The Paper Boat by Tal Lamb. This is a completely illustrated story without any dialogue or words, so it is just a picture of it's like a comparison to the Vietnamese refugees to ants. It's really a sweet story. I gave this one 4 stars. I enjoyed it. I got the ARC from NetGalley, so thanks to the publishers. The next book that I read, well, I finished it. I started this in December of 2020 and I finished it in January. Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. You guys, this book is fantastic. I cannot recommend Black Sun enough. If you haven't heard what this book is about, we follow a cast of characters who live in a world that is controlled by the Sun Priestess. Well, the Sun Priest. It's kind of like this overarching scientific religion, and basically it has gotten rid of all of the older religions. One of those religions being the Carrion Crows' worship of the crow god. One of our characters, Serapio, has been tortured. It opens up with him losing his eyes, that his mom gouges them out and sacrifices herself all in the first chapter so that the crow god will use Serapio as a vessel for the ascension when the crow god comes back. And so we're counting down the days until the ascension and the crow god coming back into power and the downfall of the Sun Priest. We follow Serapio, who is the crow god vessel. We follow Naranpa, who is the Sun Priest. And we also follow Ziala, who is a teak, which is similar to a siren, who is carrying Serapio in her ship. And later on, we meet another character who I won't spoil his name or anything in case you want to know absolutely nothing. But we meet this character and he has a big part in the ending of this novel. So I am super excited for the sequel, which I'm hoping it comes out this year, because I really, really love the world building. I love the story. I think it's super awesome. It's gritty, it's dark, and I just really, really enjoyed myself. So I gave this one 5 stars. It was awesome. And look at this cover. Like, we really have to appreciate the time and effort that went into this book, because gorgeous, gorgeous. And I'm happy I finally got around to reading Rebecca Roanhorse, and I do want to go back and read Trail of Lightning because I really like her writing. The next book that I read, you're gonna laugh at me. I am a part of those people who are in the Teen Mom 2 binge right now. I have had a reawakening, and I realize I always knew I was trash for reality TV because, like, I just enjoy watching it, but I am literal trash when it comes to Teen Mom 2. Like, it's always been one of my favorite reality shows, and so I picked up Leah Messer's new book, Hope, Grace, and Faith. And you know what? I loved it. I thought it was so fun. Like, Leah Messer is not the best writer ever, but this book packed an emotional punch because I am very invested in Leah's story. I have always been invested in Leah's story because I cannot imagine being 17 years old and finding out that one of your twin daughters has a rare form of muscular dystrophy that no other child has been diagnosed with. That is so traumatizing. And then to have to deal with all the trauma that you didn't recognize growing up while still trying to be an adult who's not an adult yet. And it's just, I really sympathize with her because I think Leah was given these big shoes to fill at such a young age, and no one had really given her the support system to do that. And I have so many thoughts, and I have so many feelings towards her mother, because I feel like her mother basically was the reason why her and Corey got the divorce in the first place. And then I'm not okay with what we find out with the fact that her mom locked her in a room and forced her to have her, like, one of her first sexual experiences at 13 years old. Like, I know her mom is diagnosed with, I think, bipolar disorder. And so there was, like, good discussion with that. But there are so many things in here that you can definitely tell that have greatly affected Leah. And so when people kind of drag her, I'm like, but she went through so much. Like, look at her story. So yeah, I give this 4.5 stars. I read this in like 4 hours. It was a good time. I cried a lot because I connect to Leah's story, and I love all of her daughters, and you know, I just have emotions. I'm invested in her life, and I only want to see her kids live their best lives and all come out to be successful little women because they're so freaking cute. The next book I read was Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam, and I got this from Book of the Month. What month did I get this? I got this in October, so it took me a little while to get to. Super short book. This is a really interesting novel that's been kind of going through the book communities. Especially I saw it a little bit more towards the end of 2020 on BookTube with reviewers, and the reviews are pretty much where I am at too. I gave this one 3.5 stars, but I think I liked it a little bit more than the general public. And the reason I liked it a little bit more was because I really enjoyed the, like, last half. Like, this to the end was really interesting for me because I love post-apocalyptic books, and I love that we're starting to see this this small portion of two families deteriorate as something is getting to them. Like, we are literally seeing the effects of a nuclear fallout, and they, like, have no clue that they're in a part of a nuclear fallout because I guess they don't understand or don't believe. And it's just interesting. It's fascinating. I kind of hate Alam's writing at the beginning because I found it was really too sexualized for descriptions that didn't need to be sexualized, and it felt super uncomfortable and unnecessary. And I was listening to the audiobook, and I remember just driving to work, and I was like, ew, like, it's not even 6 o'clock yet. Gross. Can we, like, get a different way to describe this scene, or just chop that paragraph? But once you get past all that, then it actually gets really good. And I think that this novel does a lot for the post-apocalyptic genre. It builds up interesting commentary on racism, on the end of the world, and just interesting moments that I think can lead to a lot of good discussions. I definitely think that this would be an interesting book club pick if that's something you are thinking about, because this one's short, but it also has a lot of social commentary, considering that the family is super racist. Like, boy, I was offended listening to these rich white people make these comments towards the people whose B&B they're staying at. That poor family. I feel bad because they were walking into a racist den. And it goes to show you never know, like, when you're renting out places, like, who you're renting out to. Because, like, one of the lines was literally like, I never expected that man who owned this place to be black. Okay, sis. Like, black people can't be successful homeowners who rent out spaces. Okay. So, yeah, interesting commentary on racism for that one. Then I read The Last Halloween, which is the first volume, Children, by Abby Howard. This was so good, you guys. If you like graphic novels and if you like horror graphic novels, The Last Halloween was awesome. It's marketed as a children's graphic novel. It's definitely not, because, oh my gosh, it's really quite graphic and gruesome. We follow a 10-year-old main character. I think her name is Mona, if I remember correctly. And it's the end of the world. Monsters are taking over, and so every person has their own monster. But they've never been able to attack the humans because they've been held back by this force, and this force has been murdered, and so now all hell breaks loose and all the monsters are killing people, because if a monster kills their human, they have the right to immortality. And it's all about Mona and her little band of cute monsters saving the day, and I loved it so much. It was awesome. It had great social commentary and just the sweetest moments, and it was really funny, and I can't recommend it enough. So yeah, definitely check out The Last Halloween. I also got that as an ARC from NetGalley, so thank you to the publishers. Another ARC that I love so much I had to go out and immediately order a copy of was Mermaid Saga, which is volume 1 in the collector's edition. It's look at how beautiful, like, gorgeous, stunning. I'm obsessed. This is written by Rumiko Takahashi, and she is the lady who created Inuyasha, which I really like. Inuyasha, still haven't finished watching it though because I suck at commitment. But this volume is her foray into horror. It's definitely fantasy horror. It follows a guy who has gotten immortality from eating the flesh of a mermaid, and we follow different story arcs of his life as an immortal trying to reverse his immortality. Boy, is it beautiful. The last story in this collection packs such an emotional punch. I am so picky when it comes to manga, but like, there's so much to love here, and I loved all of it. And yes, I did pre-order volume 2, and I can't wait to reread this one and then read volume 2, even though I just read it not that long ago, because it's obviously 5 stars, it's obviously amazing, and it deserves all the reads, you guys. Go read Mermaid Saga. It's vicious, it's cruel, it's heartbreaking, it's so wonderfully told, and I am still an emotional wreck when I think about this book. It's so good. Then I read Moriarty The Patriot Volume 1, which absolutely sucks. Don't go read it. I gave it 2.5 stars. I thought it was going to be really cool because it was like the backstory of Sherlock Holmes' #1 villain, arch nemesis, Moriarty. And it wasn't that good. The storylines are boring. It was whack. I'm not going to continue that series. But thanks to the publishers for sending it to me because I gave it a shot. Whew. Now, let's get into my most hated book so far in 2020. Goodnight Beautiful by, what's her name? Amy Malloy. Speaking of which, here's the book she basically plagiarized right here on my shirt with Goodnight Beautiful. Yeah. Not a good thriller. I hated the narration because I listened to the audiobook. I hated the characters. I hated the storyline. And I hated that it is a literal shot-for-shot scene of this man crawling through a house when his captor leaves. And he ends up finding the secrets of his captor. Okay, if you're gonna just copy Misery and you're gonna write a character based off of Annie Wilkes, just say that. And she did just say that, because you want to know the crazy thing? This character was obsessed with Misery and really related to Annie Wilkes. And at this point, I was like, boy, this book has no redeeming qualities for me, because I already hated it. Like, I didn't even care for it at the very beginning. I hated the writing. I hated the build-up. I couldn't care less. So this thriller did absolutely nothing for me. I guess the only reason I'm giving it 2 stars instead of 1 is because I'm trying to be gracious. But as time goes on, it'll probably be a 1 star, because the more I think about it, the more I hate this book. And I really do not like Goodnight Beautiful, and I don't understand why people are giving it 4 and 5 stars. And I'm only assuming it's because they haven't read Misery or seen the film, and that's why they like it. And I'm just like, it's not even a good build-up anyway, because it takes all the best parts of Misery and turns it into this weird show. But I get what the author was trying to do, and I'll give her props for that. It just didn't work for me. Then I read What Lies Between Us by John Moores. I had heard about this book. Ooh, I hit myself with my glasses. I heard about this book from Gabby Rees on YouTube, and this was something I immediately ordered right after hearing her talk about it, because all you need to know about this thriller is that there's two women, Maggie and Nina, and they live in the house together, and they eat dinner together once a week, but only when one of them comes down from upstairs, when she is unchained and allowed to come down for dinner. That's all you need to know. That's all I'm going to tell you, because I want you to know absolutely nothing about this. This is a wild ride. It goes by quickly. It's the most dramatic thriller you will probably read, like, this year, if you do pick it up. It's wacky in the worst ways, but in the best ways, and I had so much fun with it. I gave it 4 stars. I called a lot of the plot twists, because after a while you're like, oh yeah, I see where he's gonna go with the next plot twist, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. But it's so much fun, and I enjoyed it, and I also like his writing style a lot, and so I already have a copy of the one, so I'm excited to read more of John Moores. The next book I read was An Arc of the Haunting of Beatrix Green, Volume 1 by Rachel Hawkins, Ash Parsons, and Vicky Alvier Schechter. I gave this one 2 stars because it had so much potential, you guys. Like, The Haunting of Beatrix Green has potential. It's this homage to that period of history where people were just obsessed with, like, supernatural seances and penny dreadfuls and all that Victorian stuff. However, the plot itself leaves a lot to be desired. It is not a good plot. It is quite underwhelming, full of cliches, and just unsatisfying. So I do not recommend The Haunting of Beatrix Green unless you really just want to spend like 100, it's like around 100 pages, and just waste your time for a day. You know, sometimes we just want to read books that are like a waste of time. Not in a bad way, but like they're time wasters. They're meant to go fast. So yeah, if that's what you're looking for, that may work for you. It did not work for me. Too many cliches. Then I started this in 2020, but I picked it up and then I binge read it in like 2 days. I finally got to Delilah, Treacherous Beauty by Angela Hunt. This is a biblical fiction novel based off of the story of Delilah. If you're not familiar with Delilah from the Bible, in the book of Judges, there is a character named Samson. He is a judge of the tribe. Is it Benjamin? I think it's Benjamin. I don't know why I'm forgetting. But he's one of the leaders of the tribes of Israel. And he has a weakness for women, beautiful women, and Samson is a Nazarite, and so he has been dedicated from birth. He's not allowed to cut his hair, he's not allowed to drink wines, eat raisins, grapes, anything fermented, and Samson is well known because of his connection to Delilah. Delilah hounds Samson until she ends up convincing Samson to tell her how he can be defeated, which is by cutting his hair. They come, the Philistines, they cut off his hair, and of course they gouge out his eyes, and then Delilah is branded as a villainess for all of history, and she's pretty much always been hated. I hate that narrative. I don't think we should hate Delilah. I think we should ask ourselves why Delilah had these motives, why Delilah felt like trading in her lover for money was more important. And, you know, I really like what Angela Hunt does here, because Delilah in this story makes sense. She's not this woman who just wants money. In fact, money was not even the main reason she does it in this book. It was more of just like a bargaining chip that she could use to convince the Philistines to do what she wanted. And I like that. I also liked that this book ends with Samson and Delilah not hating each other. And you know what? I dug it. This was a great look at a historical, biblical woman that white angry preachers like to talk crap about when they give their sermons. And I'm over it, okay? I'm over it. So, I enjoyed it. Also, I appreciate the fact that she has Delilah not as a Philistine woman, but as an Egyptian woman. Because we don't know what Delilah's race or affiliation with the tribe was. She could have been a Jew. She could have been a Philistine. She could have been an Egyptian. We don't know. She could have been a whole lot of things. So I appreciated a new take besides the typical Philistine take that authors or speakers and writers usually tend to gravitate to. Then I read Creepshow by Stephen King, my first Stephen King book of the year. Well, it's a comic strip. This is a well-known movie, right? I'm sure there's also a TV show remake. Fun stuff. I did enjoy this. There are, I think, 5 little stories in here. I really liked The Crate. That one's fun. I liked Something to Tide Over You. I like those two, I think, the best. That was fun. I gave this one 4 stars overall. I enjoyed it. It's creepy, it's fun, but it's not like it's a life-changing novel. However, it does what it's supposed to do, which is make you feel a little squeamish. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Glad I finally got to it. Then I read one of my arcs. Thank you to these publishers for giving me A House at the Bottom of a Lake by Josh Malerman. I gave it 5 stars. A House at the Bottom of a Lake was superb. It follows 2 teenagers who are just starting to date, and on their first date, they end up going and finding a second lake, and then they find a house at the bottom of the lake, and they become obsessed with this house. They cannot stop thinking about this house. They want to explore this house all the time, get inside the house to know the secrets of the house. And this house is quite sinister and different. And I loved it. I loved the ending. I loved what this book did. I love the exploration of teenage love. And I love just everything this book said at the end. It was so beautiful and poignant. And I really liked A House at the Bottom of a Lake. This is my first time giving 5 stars to Josh Malerman. I liked Bird Box a lot. I think I gave it 5 stars, but it's more of like 4.5 the more I walk away from Bird Box. Absolutely didn't care for Mallory, the sequel. So I'm quite happy that I really loved this one. Then I read a quick YA horror romp called Survive the Night by Danielle Vega, which I have always wanted to read. I still want to read the Merciless series by Danielle Vega, but I've always wanted to read Survive the Night because the premise is so fascinating. We follow this girl who has just gotten out of rehab, and she is going to a party in the subway tunnels of New York. I'm pretty sure it's New York. And in these subway tunnels, one of her friends ends up murdered, and then they can't get out of the subway tunnels, and there is a giant monster. It is so much fun. If you like Cthulhu horror and like, you know, the Lovecraftian horror mythos stuff, this is fun. This is super fun because not only is it like a fun YA horror novel, but it's got like some creepy, foreboding Lovecraftian stuff. Like, did this monster, so I got cut off, but like, did this monster come from a hurricane, or has this monster always been inside the tunnels? It's fun, it's dark, people die. It's actually one of the darker YA horrors that I've read, because usually YA horror doesn't want people to pass away, and they're like, oh, we're not gonna go there. But this one goes there, and I really liked it. I thought it was so much fun. And then the next book I read was Devolution, a first-hand account of the Rainier Sasquatch Massacre by Max Brooks. Now, Max Brooks wrote World War Z, which I have not read yet. I do one day want to read it. I have watched the movie. It was okay. But the reason I picked up Devolution was because, hello, Sasquatch horror. I'm here for Bigfoot. That was why I picked it up. I gave it 3 stars. Surprisingly, and this is the weird thing about Devolution, the strongest part of this novel for me is the middle part, which is so weird because usually like the middle part is the weaker part of the novel. But I didn't care for the ending, and I didn't care for the beginning because I thought the build-up took too long. And by the time we got to the ending of the novel, it left me feeling like I could care less. And so I don't even remember what happened because I blocked it out from my memory because I couldn't care less. And so yeah, Devolution just didn't work for me. I'm quite sad, but I really enjoyed the commentary on the fact that a chimpanzee will eat you. And that is why Bigfoot is probably evolved from chimpanzees. That was fun. I also read Chlorine Sky by Mahogany L. Brown, which I gave 3 stars. This is a YA contemporary written in verse poetry form. I really liked this. It was a very quick read. It follows a main character, which I don't have the plot summary. I should have pulled that up. So I don't remember her name. But she is a black teen girl who is really passionate about basketball. And it's definitely a coming of age story about how she's lost a friend, she gains a friend, she starts one of her first relationships. It's kind of like an exploration. However, what didn't work for me with Chlorine Sky was the lack of chronology in the storytelling. It was very here, and then here, and then here. Which I do find that a lot of novels in poetry form do take that route. However, something about it felt jarring when I would get pulled from one part to the other. And so it really didn't mesh well for me. However, I thought Chlorine Sky has a really good story to tell, especially with where it goes at the ending, which I will not say because I feel like that's a major spoiler, but because it's also a triggering topic, I will say that it has to do with someone, not our main character, but with another character being sexually assaulted. And that left to some really good room for discussion, I think. I did get this arc from NetGalley, so thanks to the publishers, because I am quite happy I got Chlorine Sky, and I hope to buy a copy for my classroom because I have a lot of students who play basketball and they're girls, so that's awesome. I really want them to read this book and see themselves in the main character, because I don't come across a whole lot of books about female basketball players, so that was fun. Then I also read In Love and Pajamas, a collection of comics about being yourself by Katana Chetwynd. I always pronounce her name wrong. I think it's Chetwynd. I gave this one 3.25 stars. In Love and Pajamas is, part of the Katana Comics franchise. I loved one of the Katana Comics books that I read. I really enjoyed this one. But In Love and Pajamas didn't really work for me, which is why I gave it 3.25 stars. I still thought it was cute. I chuckled a little bit. But I didn't find it as funny as the previous comic book that I read by her. And it left something to be desired, which is not how I want to feel when I read one of these comics. I just want to feel kind of light and airy. And I just felt disconnected the whole time. So it could have just been me. Then I read Shine Your Icy Crown by Amanda Lovelace, which I gave 3.5 stars. This is a poetry book, a part of one of her new series of poetry books. Is it a part of her fairy tales? I think it's part of the fairy tale poetry collection. I liked the first part in this collection so much. And so I'm going to break it down into how I feel about this connection. First part, great, fantastic, wonderful. Second part, feels completely different from the first part and almost like a different poetry book, and I was not a fan of it. And then the third part was like 5 pages and it could have been totally cut. So I give it 3.5 stars overall because I really did enjoy the first part of this poetry collection, but the second and third part could have been completely scrapped. And if they were scrapped, I probably would have given this 4.5 or 5 stars. Then I read The Elementals by Michael McDowell, which I will not tell you what I gave because I am doing a reading vlog. So you will find out what I think. So those are all the books I read in January. I read a total of 19 books, 4,617 pages. I listened to 25.5 hours on audiobook, and it was a fun time. So let me know what you read. Let me know what you think of these books, and I will see you later. Bye!